For more than 60 years, Carol Burnett was the face of American laughter, the kindest woman in Hollywood, the one who could make a nation forget its troubles with a single smile. But in a rare moment of honesty near her 90th birthday, she finally let the world see behind that smile. In an interview that shocked fans everywhere, Carol Burnett quietly admitted there were men she could never stand, men who had shaped her life and her pain. Some betrayed her trust and love, some used power to diminish her success, and one, a man she once trusted completely, turned friendship into heartbreak.
You're watching Silver Legends, the home of classic Hollywood stories told with heart and soul. If these golden memories mean something to you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Together, let's keep the legends shining for generations to come.
That man was Harvey Korman. To millions, they were a perfect pair. On the Carol Burnett Show, their chemistry was magic, the timing flawless, the laughter effortless. Viewers believed they were inseparable, two halves of one heartbeat. But behind the curtain, something darker was growing. By 1974, the show was at its peak. Ratings were breaking records. CBS had renewed it for 3 more years. They'd just won their 4th Emmy. And yet, inside Studio 33 in Los Angeles, tension between Carol and Harvey was reaching its limit. The first signs were small: a sarcastic comment, a cold silence during rehearsals. Costume designer Bob Mackie later said Harvey had become restless, short-tempered, and distant. He began avoiding Carol backstage, complaining more often, snapping at crew members. Some believed he felt overshadowed, that Carol's success had become too large, too visible, too celebrated. Then came the day everything broke. It was a warm afternoon in April. The cast was rehearsing an episode featuring British singer Petula Clark. During Harvey's scene, a minor lighting mistake left his face in shadow. He stopped. He threw his script to the floor, and with anger that stunned everyone, he shouted, "After all these years, can't anyone get it right?" The room went still. Every laugh, every whisper, gone. Director Dave Powers tried to calm him, but Harvey wouldn't stop. He turned, furious, and muttered that even Carol hadn't noticed. That was the moment everything changed. Carol Burnett, known for her grace and gentleness, stood up from her seat in the audience. She walked quietly to the stage. Her expression was calm, but her voice carried through the silence. She told him she'd had enough. If he couldn't respect everyone who worked there, then he didn't need to be there at all. The studio froze. According to Bob Mackie's memoir, you could hear a microphone drop. Harvey stared at her, then turned and walked out. No one followed. That afternoon, after the crew wrapped, Carol sat alone for nearly 30 minutes, looking at Harvey's empty chair. A cameraman later said she whispered, "I didn't want it to end this way." Hours later, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner broke the story. Harvey Korman leaves the Carol Burnett Show during rehearsal. CBS refused to comment, but Hollywood buzzed. Rumors swirled of ego, exhaustion, and a friendship torn apart by pride. For 3 days, Carol filmed in silence, never mentioning his name. Then, on Wednesday morning, the phone rang at CBS. It was Harvey. His voice was quiet. He told Carol he was sorry, that he'd forgotten why he started. The next day, he returned to the studio. He apologized to the crew. Carol smiled softly and hugged him. The room erupted in applause. But everyone there knew something between them had changed forever. Harvey stayed on the show until 1977. They remained friendly, but never as close. Years later, when asked about him, Carol smiled and said, "Harvey made me laugh more than anyone and gave me the biggest headaches." The Studio 33 blow-up became one of television's most talked about behind-the-scenes moments, not because of drama, but because it revealed something deeper, that even in comedy, ego can destroy magic. For Carol Burnett, it was a turning point. She learned that kindness could lead a show, but sometimes strength had to end it. Don't take your eyes off this video if you want to uncover the full shocking truth.
Behind the glittering success of the Carol Burnett Show, the program that made television history, Carol's personal life was quietly falling apart. Her marriage to Joe Hamilton, once celebrated as a partnership built on love, trust, and creativity, was slowly crumbling. Their story began in 1960, when Carol was still a young performer on The Gary Moore Show. Joe Hamilton, 10 years older, was already a seasoned producer who had worked on The Steve Allen Show and The Colgate Comedy Hour. They met during a CBS taping in New York, and from that moment, there was a spark. Carol later said, "He looked at me in a way that made me feel like I truly mattered." 3 years later, they married in a small California ceremony surrounded by close friends and colleagues. By the time the Carol Burnett Show premiered in 1967, Joe had become the show's producer, guiding the program behind the scenes while Carol led it in front of the camera. Together, they were unstoppable. She brought warmth and heart. He brought order and discipline. They built a world of laughter that felt untouchable. But even the strongest partnerships can fracture under the weight of success. By 1975, Joe had begun taking more control, not just of the show, but of Carol's creative voice. He started approving guest lists and rewriting scripts before she ever saw them. In meetings, he'd cut emotional moments, insisting the show should focus purely on humor. Carol disagreed, saying, "Viewers need both heart and laughter." That disagreement, one of emotion versus control, marked the beginning of their distance. As the years passed, Joe became more distant at home as well. He was gone more often, working late or handling new projects. Then came the whispers. In August 1979, TV Guide published a rumor. A veteran producer was involved in a private relationship inside a Los Angeles editing suite. No names were printed, but everyone at CBS knew who it was referring to. Crew members often saw Joe dining with a young editor at the Show House restaurant near the studio. Carol didn't confront him at first. She tried to ignore it, telling friends she didn't want to believe the rumors. But that silence broke when her lawyer made a discovery that changed everything. In 1982, during a review of production contracts, her team found documents showing that Joe had quietly formed Hamilton Productions in Beverly Hills, registering spin-off projects from the Carol Burnett Show under his own name. Among them was Mama's Family, based on one of Carol's original sketches. That discovery felt like a knife. For Carol, it wasn't about money, it was about betrayal. The confrontation came soon after in their CBS office. According to her biography, Laughing Till It Hurts, she faced him directly, her voice trembling but firm, and asked, "Do you think it's fair to turn what we built together into something just yours?" Joe looked at her and answered coldly, "It's business, Carol, not emotion." That moment ended everything. On March 3, 1983, Carol filed for divorce in Los Angeles County Court. The Los Angeles Times ran the headline, "Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton split. Behind it, one of Hollywood's most complicated asset divisions." The legal battle dragged on for nearly a year. Joe demanded full production rights, including profits from the Carol Burnett Show and its related projects. Carol fought to keep her name and half the earnings. Each day, reporters from People, Variety, and USA Today waited outside the courthouse. Carol stayed composed, walking in quietly, her expression calm but distant. Those who saw her said she looked tired but unbroken. In June 1984, the court ruled in her favor. She would retain the rights to the Carol Burnett Show, while Joe would receive 40% of syndication profits. When asked how she felt after the verdict, Carol smiled faintly and said, "We were the best team until he forgot I was more than a partner." The quote made the cover of People magazine and was repeated across television talk shows nationwide. After the divorce, she cut all professional ties with Joe. His later productions never matched the success they once shared. When Joe Hamilton passed away from heart disease in 1991, Carol didn't attend the funeral. Instead, she sent a bouquet of white flowers with a simple note that read, "I wish you peace, Joe. As for me, I'll keep going." It was short, it was final, but it said everything. Years later, reflecting on their story, Carol quietly said, "Joe taught me that in this business, love isn't enough. You also need trust." Her words carried no bitterness, only truth. She had loved deeply, worked tirelessly, and lost painfully. But even in heartbreak, she refused to let anger define her. Behind the woman who made the world laugh was a heart that had been broken and rebuilt by grace.
For Carol Burnett, the turbulence in her life didn't end with her marriage. Even after reclaiming her independence, Hollywood still had ways to test her strength. And some of those tests came from the very legends she once admired. The first came from Marlon Brando, the man everyone in the industry respected and feared. The year was 1972. The Carol Burnett Show was at its peak, and Brando had just stunned the world with The Godfather. On a quiet summer night in Los Angeles, at her home along Coldwater Canyon, Carol was fast asleep when the phone rang at 3 a.m. Her housekeeper, assuming it was a studio emergency, woke her. Carol answered, groggy and half asleep. A deep voice on the line said, "Carol, it's Marlon Brando." At first, she thought it was a prank, but then he mentioned watching the Carol Burnett Show on CBS. Realizing it was truly him, she thanked him politely. What followed was half an hour of conversation, at first about acting, art, and fame. But as the minutes passed, Brando's tone shifted. His words turned personal, suggestive, crossing the line between admiration and intrusion. Carol, known for her poise, stayed calm. She redirected the talk several times, but he pressed on. Finally, she said firmly, "Mr. Brando, it's late. I have an early call tomorrow." Then she hung up. By morning, the story had exploded across Hollywood. The Hollywood Reporter ran the headline, "Marlon Brando calls Carol Burnett at 3 a.m." The Los Angeles Herald-Examiner followed with, "Brando finds inspiration in CBS's comedy queen." The rumors spread faster than the truth. Columnists like Rona Barrett and Luella Parsons hinted that the call lasted hours, that Brando had fallen for her. CBS released a statement calling the conversation personal and private. But Carol was humiliated. She hadn't done anything wrong, yet she was the one people whispered about. For months, she avoided events where Brando might appear. At the 1974 AFI Awards, when she saw him unexpectedly on the red carpet and turned away without a word. Those close to her said that night changed her forever. From then on, her assistant's schedule notes included a line written in ink, "Do not attend events where Brando is present." She never mentioned him again. But that moment left a mark, not of anger, but of disappointment. It taught her a lesson she'd never forget, that kindness had limits, even in a cruel industry. The next blow came not in private, but under the chandeliers of the Beverly Hilton Hotel. In 1968, the Carol Burnett Show was dominating television. That same year, Cary Grant, the picture of old Hollywood grace, received a Lifetime Achievement Award at a star-studded gala. Carol arrived radiant in a red gown designed by Bob Mackie. The ballroom shimmered with legends: Lucille Ball, Gregory Peck, Elizabeth Taylor, Jack Lemmon. After the ceremony, Carol approached Grant's table, champagne glass in hand, to congratulate him. A nearby director, trying to lighten the moment, said, "Carrie, have you seen Carol's show? The whole country loves it." Grant smiled, but there was a coldness behind the charm. "Oh, that show, the one where she waves her arms and makes faces? I've never understood why people enjoy that sort of thing." The laughter in the room died instantly. Carol stood still, maintaining her grace. Then, with the poise of a woman who had faced humiliation before, she replied, "Maybe people prefer laughing with real folks rather than with perfection." The ballroom went silent. Carol nodded politely, turned, and walked away. 2 days later, the Los Angeles Times ran a short article titled "Cary Grant and Carol Burnett, A Frosty Encounter." Though the piece was brief, it hinted at Grant's disdain for television comedy, and especially for women leading it. When asked later about the incident, Carol didn't deny it. She smiled faintly and said, "He was brilliant on screen, but perhaps forgot that laughter wears many faces." The story spread across Hollywood. Some defended Grant, others quietly admired Carol's composure. For her, the moment wasn't about revenge. It was about self-respect. She kept working, kept smiling, and let her success speak louder than any insult. That season, the Carol Burnett Show reached its highest ratings ever. But perhaps the deepest wound came not from a single insult, but from decades of quiet exclusion. In the world of television, no mystery lingered longer than this. Why was Carol Burnett, the woman who paved the way for female-led comedy, never invited to host Saturday Night Live? For nearly 50 years, it remained one of Hollywood's silent scandals. In the mid-1970s, as SNL reshaped American humor, insiders said her name came up more than once. But each time, Lorne Michaels reportedly dismissed it, saying, "She doesn't fit the spirit of the show." To him, Carol represented old television, heartwarming, gentle, sincere, everything SNL was trying not to be. Carol never publicly complained. When asked about it in later interviews, she simply smiled and said, "Maybe I'm just not edgy enough for them." Her silence spoke louder than any protest. It wasn't anger, it was quiet dignity. In 2023, NBC aired Carol Burnett, 90 Years of Laughter and Love. During the press tour, a reporter asked if she regretted never hosting Saturday Night Live. She paused, smiled kindly, and said, "I guess they didn't need me, but I didn't need them either." That one sentence broke 50 years of silence. Within 24 hours, the hashtag #InviteCarolToSNL went viral. Even Lorne Michaels released a statement calling her a pioneer who defined comedy before the rest of us even understood it. But for Carol Burnett, vindication didn't matter. She didn't need revenge or recognition. She had already proven that kindness could outlast arrogance and that grace could survive even in a world built on ego.
By the time the storms of Hollywood had passed, Carol Burnett had seen nearly everything: success, betrayal, loss, and grace. But the years that followed weren't about fame anymore. They were about survival, forgiveness, and the quiet art of rebuilding a life that had once been torn apart. After Joe Hamilton's death, many assumed Carol would fade into retirement, but that wasn't her way. Instead, she returned to what she knew best: laughter. Not the forced kind, but the kind that comes from healing. In the late 1980s, she began performing again, appearing on Broadway and in guest roles on television. Each appearance reminded audiences of something they had almost forgotten: that Carol Burnett was more than just a comedian. She was a storyteller, a survivor, and a woman whose humor carried the weight of truth. But privately, she was still reckoning with wounds that never fully closed. For decades, she'd carried the shame of tabloid gossip,
the phone call from Marlon Brando, the cold humiliation from Cary Grant, and the silent exclusion from Saturday Night Live. Hollywood had built her up, but it had also tried to break her. And yet, she never let it win. Instead, Carol chose to rise, quietly, powerfully, and with grace. In 1986, she made headlines for a very different reason, not for scandal, but for standing her ground. A national tabloid, the National Enquirer, had published a false story accusing her of public drunkenness and crude behavior at a Washington, D.C. restaurant. Carol sued them. It was the first time a major celebrity had taken on the gossip press, and won. During the trial, she sat in the courtroom with the same calm she had always carried. When questioned about why she didn't simply ignore it, she said, "I make my living on laughter, not on lies." In 1981, she won the case, and the jury awarded her $1.6 million in damages. But for Carol, it wasn't about the money. It was about dignity, a message that truth still mattered in a world built on illusion. The victory marked a turning point. Hollywood began to see her not only as a performer, but as a symbol of integrity. A woman who had endured everything fame could throw at her and still refused to lose herself. By the 1990s, Carol's work took on a deeper tone. Her roles in Friendly Fire and Life of the Party, The Story of Beatrice, showed a more serious side. Performances that carried the echoes of her own life. Pain softened by compassion. Audiences responded. Critics praised her depth, but nothing defined her later years more than family. In the early 2000s, she faced one of the hardest chapters of her life, the loss of her daughter, Carrie Hamilton, to cancer. Carrie had followed in her mother's footsteps, becoming an actress and writer. She was bright, creative, and full of the same spark that Carol once carried as a young dreamer in Hollywood. The relationship had been complicated at times, scarred by Carrie's struggles with addiction in her youth, but by the time of her illness, they had grown closer than ever. Carol spent nearly every day by her bedside at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. When Carrie passed away in January 2002 at the age of 38, Carol said it felt like a piece of her had been torn away. "She was my best friend," she later wrote, "and she taught me that love doesn't end, it changes form." After her daughter's death, many expected Carol to step back from the spotlight for good. Instead, she did what she had always done. She turned grief into light. She returned to the stage not to escape pain, but to transform it. Her later interviews often carried a quiet wisdom. When asked how she survived so much loss, she said, "You can't erase pain. You can only use it. That's how I found my laughter again." At 90, Carol Burnett became something more than a legend. She became a symbol of endurance, proof that kindness can survive betrayal, and that laughter can rise even from heartbreak. In 2023, NBC celebrated her 90th birthday with Carol Burnett, 90 Years of Laughter and Love. The special gathered generations of performers who owed their careers to her, from Kristen Wiig and Amy Poehler to Steve Carell and Katy Perry. As the crowd rose to a standing ovation, Carol wiped away a tear. It wasn't just a celebration of fame, it was a celebration of a life lived with dignity. For a woman who had seen so much, the rise, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the silence, this was her redemption. Not because Hollywood finally recognized her, but because she never stopped believing in the power of joy. When asked what she hoped people remembered about her, she said softly, "That I made them feel less alone." And maybe that's what made Carol Burnett so special. She wasn't just America's sweetheart. She was its survivor, the woman who taught a nation that laughter isn't the opposite of pain. It's what makes pain bearable.
Time has a way of softening even the sharpest pain. At 90, Carol Burnett sits surrounded by the very thing she once gave to the world: laughter. It echoes differently now, softer, slower, carrying the weight of everything she's lived through. For generations, she was the woman who made America smile. But behind every smile she gave, there was a story of heartbreak, endurance, and quiet strength. Carol Burnett never pretended her life was perfect. She never hid the pain, the loss, or the mistakes. Instead, she turned them into something beautiful, into laughter that reached millions of hearts. She often said, "Only when you've been broken can you make others laugh." And perhaps that was her secret all along. Through every betrayal, every public humiliation, every private heartbreak, she chose grace. Through every silence and every injustice, she chose dignity. And in a world that often confuses cruelty with power, Carol Burnett proved that kindness was the greatest power of all. Her story isn't just about fame, it's about survival, about finding joy where there once was pain, and meaning where there once was loss. When asked what she's most proud of, she never mentioned her 6 Emmys, her Golden Globes, or the lifetime awards that fill her living room shelves. She said, simply, that I made people feel less alone. That's what makes Carol Burnett timeless. Her gift wasn't just her talent, it was her humanity. She gave the world permission to laugh at the pain, to smile through the tears, to believe that no matter how hard life gets, there's always a reason to keep going. The girl from San Antonio who used humor to survive her childhood became the woman who taught an entire nation how to survive theirs. And as the curtain slowly falls on her remarkable story, one truth remains. Carol Burnett didn't just make people laugh, she made them feel seen, understood, and comforted. In the end, she didn't need revenge, fame, or validation. She had laughter. And laughter, honest, healing laughter, never dies.
Thank you for watching Silver Legends. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We love hearing your thoughts and memories. Subscribe today and help us keep the Silver Screen Legends alive.